Hello friend and welcome back. In our last video, we populated our student classes inside of our data tables, and in this video we're going to discuss about the student class edit functionality. So when the admin click on this edit icon, just go ahead and take him to a class edit page where he can be able to edit the student class and also update it. So let's go ahead and do that. Now let's head back to our source code. And now for our edit icon, as you can see, I've already wrapped it inside an anchor tag. So now let's go ahead and create our route, our student edit route. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say route. Let's go ahead and call our route edit student, like so. And to edit our class, we also need to pass the class ID in which we wanted to edit inside of our database, because we are of course not going to update all of our student class at once. So we need to specify exactly which class we wanted to edit at any point in time. For instance, if you come over here to our database, you can see each class has its own unique ID. So we're going to be passing a class ID inside of our route, and we're going to be using that specific class ID that we are passing along with our route to edit that specific class. So let's go ahead and do that. Now let's go back to our code. Now after specifying our route name, we're going to go ahead and say comma right here, and then let's go ahead and call our class like so. Paste it right here, and then we're going to go ahead and call our class ID like so. So now we are simply passing each class ID that we're going to be selecting to edit to our route, so that we can use the ID to edit that specific class. So now after this, we're going to go ahead and create our student edit student route. So let's go ahead and copy that. Let's go to our web.php file inside of our class controller. Let's go ahead and copy this route. Okay, copy, paste it down below here, and then let's go back to our manage classes view and copy our edit student route name. Copy that, and then go back to our web.php file. Let's go ahead and update our name to edit student. Let's update our URL as well. Copy this, edit, copy this, student. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and pass our route parameter like so, ID like so. So this is a route parameter. This route parameter is actually going to hold the value of this ID that we are passing inside our route. As you can see, we passed our class ID in our edit student route. So when we pass a dynamic value into our route, we need to as well use our route parameter to get that value. So this is basically what this route parameter is doing. It's going to get our dynamic value, our dynamic class ID value. So that's basically what this route parameter indicates. And now let's go ahead and change our method name to edit student, like so. Now let's go ahead and create our method inside of our classes controller. Right, let's go ahead and say public function like so. Paste our method, and now we're going to go ahead and get our ID, our class ID, from our route parameter right here, which is ID. The value of our ID right here that we pass into the edit student route will be stored inside of our route parameter, and then we're going to go ahead and pull it down inside this our ID variable that we pass here. So let's go ahead and continue with our code. So now let's go ahead and say end method, copy this, paste it down below here, and now let's go ahead and fetch our class information using the class ID that we passed as our route parameter. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say class will be equals to, let's call our classes model like so, and then let's go ahead and say find with this specific ID, our specific class ID. Let's go ahead and paste it right here. Okay, now let me go ahead and show you something. Let's go ahead and say echo class. Okay, let's go ahead and save all, save everything. Let's run our PHP Adson optimize command. Okay, now let's go ahead and refresh our application. All right, now if you hover over this, our edit icon, As you can see down here, it's going to show something down here. So as you can see, it's showing edit student 1, edit student 2. So each class that you hover over, each class that you're going to be selecting is going to be passing its unique ID to our route. So now let's go ahead and click on class 1. As you can see, it's going to give us the information. Class 1 has an ID of 1, and the class name column is class 1, and the section is section A, and we have created add, updated add. So this is actually the information that we fetch, our specific class information that we fetch. So now that we fetch and store our specific class information inside this class variable, now let's go ahead and return our view. Let's go ahead and create our view like so. Return view, and inside of our views folder, let's go ahead and say it inside backend, inside class, and then inside our class directory, I'm going to go ahead and create a view called edit class view like so. And then we're going to go ahead and pass our class information to this view. So let's go ahead and copy our class, and then let's go ahead and pass it with the compact method. Compact like so, and then let's go ahead and paste this. Now we passed our classes. Now let's go ahead and create our view. Copy this. Let's navigate to our views folder. Okay, and that section inside backend, classes, and view. Let's go ahead and paste this and say edit classes view.blade.php. Now let's go ahead and hit enter. Okay, now our edit class view is going to be exactly the same as our, let me go ahead and take you back, as our create class section. So let's go ahead and copy this view, create class view like so. Let's go ahead and copy everything. Now let's go back to our edit class view and paste this. Okay, now let's go ahead and save our file, save all, and now let's go back to our application. Now let's refresh our application. Okay, let's go to manage class. Okay, let's go and say edit class. Yes, now we are having our edit class view, and now let's go ahead and modify our view to our edit class view. So let's go back to our application. Our title here should be edit student class, edit student class, not classes. Okay, something like this. Let's go ahead and close this window, and this should be edit class. Okay, something like this. This is our title. So let's go ahead and change this to edit student class. All right, so okay, now we can go ahead and start populating our input fields with our student class. So let's go ahead and do that. Remember, we have already passed our class data to our view as class. So let's go ahead and call this variable, copy this, edit student class. Okay, now we're not going to be needing this placeholder, but rather we're going to be needing a value. So let's say a value should be $class, and our class, we're going to be showing our class name first. Okay, so let's go ahead and say class underscore name, something like this. We're not going to be needing this required. Okay, class name should be class text. Okay, so let's go ahead and save our file, save, and now let's go ahead and refresh our application. Yes, as you can see, now we are having class 1. Yes, of course, because we are selecting class 1. So let's go ahead and say manage classes. Let me go ahead and select the class 2. Yes, as you can see, now here we are having class 2. So this is completely dynamic. So now let's go ahead and populate our section input field. So let's go back to our code, and now let's go ahead and copy this, our value, copy, and then replace our placeholder like so. And then this time around, we're going to be calling our section like this, which is this our column, this section column A. Alright, now let's go back and then we're going to remove this required attribute. Okay, edit student class. Okay, our button should say update class. Okay, something like this. Now let's go ahead and save our file. Save. Now let's go back to our application, refresh. Okay, now we have class 2 section A. Alright, now if you go back, if you go ahead and say class 1, yes, we have class 1 section A. So now that we have our student class information populated inside of our edit form, so let's go ahead and now start updating our student class inside of our database. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, to do that, our first job is going to be to create our student class update route. So let's go ahead and do that. Just say update class, something like this. And our method should of course be post method. So let's go ahead and create our route. Now let's go back to our web.php file and let's copy this route, copy, paste it down below here. And then first of all, let's go ahead and change our method to post. And then now let's go ahead and update our route name, copy our new route name. Let's go ahead and update this, say update class. So let's go ahead and change this to update class, paste this, update class. Okay, something like this, update class. This time around we're not going to be passing a route parameter. Let's go ahead and change this to update class. Well, actually I'm just realizing this, I made a mistake right here. Instead of edit class, I called the route edit student. So let me go ahead and rectify that. So let's go ahead and change this route name to edit class instead of student, edit class. Okay, paste this and then let's go ahead and say edit class, not student. Okay, now let's go ahead and update our route name in our manage classes view. Okay, let's go ahead and say edit class, not student. Okay, something like this. Okay, and now let's go ahead and continue with our update class. So let's go ahead and create our method, copy this, and now let's go back to our classes controller. Now down below here, we're going to go ahead and say public function, and we're going to go ahead and pass our request like so. Okay, something like that. And now let's end our method. Okay, let's paste this. And now let's get back to our edit class view. Okay, and now to update our student class, we need to of course have that class specific ID, which we can use to trace the class inside of our database and then go ahead and update it. So I've basically shown you one way to pass our student class to our route, which is by doing something like this. Let's say $, and let's go ahead and call our class variable like so, class, and you're going to go ahead and say ID. And then after this, inside of our route, you're going to go ahead and pass our parameter right here by saying something like this, ID. But this time around, I'm going to show you another way to pass our ID inside of our route if you are using a post method right here. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. We're not going to use this way this time around. So let's go back to our edit class view and let's go ahead and delete this. Instead of passing it to our route, we're going to go ahead and specify a hidden input field like so. Let's go ahead and say input type. Let me leave it as text for now, just for demonstration purpose. So let's go ahead and say the name should be ID, and then our value, let's go ahead and add the value, copy this, and let's go back here and paste this. Value should be class ID like so. Okay, now let's go ahead and save our file, save all. Remember, we have made changes to our web.php file. We also update our edit class route. So let's go ahead and run our php artisan optimize command, php artisan optimize. Okay, now let's go ahead and refresh our application. Okay, we are having this 404. Yes, this is actually the route that we just updated from edit student to edit class. So let's go back to our application like so, and let's refresh our application. Okay, now I think we are good to go. So now let's go back to our manage classes. And now if you go ahead and click on edit class 1. Another error message. Okay, let's go and see. Yes, of course we need to edit our edit class method inside of our controller. So let's go back to our code. This is our edit class. Let's go ahead and copy this inside of our class controller. We use it as edit student, so we need to update this to edit class like so. Now let's go ahead and save our file. Okay, everything should be cool. Alright, now let's go back to our application. Now let's refresh. This arrow should be gone. Yes, as you can see now, our arrow is gone. So this is basically the input field that we just added right here. The input field here, as you can see, we pass the student ID as the value, and we give it a name as ID. That's why it's showing right here. So let's go back to our manage classes. And then now let's go for class 2. Let's go ahead and click edit. Yes, as you can see, class 2 has an ID of 2, which is right here. ID of 2. Okay, now this is the second method to actually pass our ID. So now let's go ahead and change this type to hidden because we don't want it to be visible. Hidden like so. And now let's go ahead and save our file. Now let's get back to our application. Now refresh. This should be gone. Yes, as you can see now, our ID, our student class ID is not going to be visible right here, but it's going to be sent along inside of our request. So now let's go ahead and update our student class. So let's go back to our code, and now inside of our classes controller, and now I'm going to go ahead and get our class ID first. Let's say ID should be our request ID, which is right here. As you can see, we passed our class ID as ID. We give it a name as ID right here. So we're gonna go ahead and get it with the name ID inside of our request. So now let's get back to our controller, and we're gonna go ahead and say it request ID like so. Now we get our class ID, and then after that, I'm gonna go ahead and now update our student class. So let me go ahead and show you another method to update our student class. Let me go ahead and call our classes model classes like so, and then let's go ahead and say find our specific class with its unique ID that we pass already. So let's go ahead and say ID, and then after finding the class, I'm going to go ahead and call one of the default method, which is update like so. And then now let's go ahead and start updating our columns, our classes, our student classes column. So the first column is going to be our class name and section. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and say class name should be replaced with our new class name inside of our request. So let's go ahead and say request. We're going to be targeting our request column, this class name. Copy this, paste this right here, and then let's go ahead and call our section, which is this section right here inside of our database, this section column. So let's go ahead and update that as well. Let's go ahead and say the assign request, and you should be getting the section right from our edit form. Copy that, and now let's go ahead and paste it right here. And then after updating our class, we need to have a message. Okay, a toaster message like so. Let's come down here, paste this, and the message should say student class updated successfully. And then we should be redirected back to the same page with this message. Okay. So now let's go ahead and save our file. Let's give it a try. Okay, let's go ahead and refresh our page. Okay, now let's go ahead and update our name. Let's say class 2 111 and section A 111. So let's go ahead and say update class. Yes, as you can see, it says student class updated successfully, and as you can see, our class is updated successfully. And of course, inside of our database, let's go ahead and take a look. Yes, you can see class 2111 section A111. All right, now we have successfully updated our student class. Okay, now let me go ahead and make some minor adjustment right here. So instead of taking us back to the same page, I want us to be redirected back to our manage classes view when we create our classes and also when we update our classes. So let me go ahead and do that. Now let's go back here. Instead of saying return redirect back, so I wanted to return redirect to a route like so, and then let's go ahead and call the route name. Let me come back here and say our manage classes route. Okay, let's paste this, and then the same thing is going to happen for our create student. Okay, which is right here, create class. All right, so instead of return redirect back, we should be redirected to our manage classes route. So let's go ahead and save this, our changes, save it. Now let's go ahead and refresh our application. Okay, now first let's go ahead and create another class. Let's say test class like so, and test section, something like this. Now let's go ahead and say create class. Yes, as you can see, now we are taken back to our manage classes view instead of redirecting us back to the same page. So now we are here on our manage classes view, which is very cool. And the same thing is going to happen for the update. Let me go ahead and update this class 2. Okay, let me take it back to how it was before. Say section A and say update class. We should be redirected. Yes, as you can see, we are back to our manage classes. Very cool, with our beautiful toaster message that says class updated successfully. All right, so friend, that will be it for this video, and in our next video we're going to be discussing about our delete functionality. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.